I hadn't grown up with Nintendo and Sega like most of my friends. However, I do love the games they created immensely. The list of games that I play frequently could go on for miles, but I downloaded the infamous ZSNES just to play Super Mario World. I even downloaded the Sonic the Hedgehog for the SNES from the same site, which I later deleted because of how pathetic it was. At least it was pathetic for me. I settled with playing Sonic games online. However, one day I came across something that caught my eye, exploring the infinite and sometimes terrifying world of ROM downloads. It was a ROM for Super Mario World. It was uploaded by a user called IESLESIESOLOVAID, and the website was on one of those Weebly sites where you can have a free website, but it has to have .web or .weebly or something like that. I know that's pretty sketchy to do something like this, but I downloaded it anyway because the screenshots featured some pretty epic horse layouts, like it was designed for pros. I like to think of myself as a pro, but this would be the ultimate test. There was a description, but was in another language. I tried using Chrome's translator, but it wouldn't go through. I copied a lengthy paragraph and pasted it into Bing Translator. I rely on Microsoft rather than some search engine created by a college. But I suppose that my trust was misplaced, as only a few lines came through. Why only a few lines? Don't ask me. I find it as weird as you probably do. But it read this. Play as Sonic. Buoni livelli, nemici difficili, livelli segreta u actar. Men moet niet kriegen overhaast, ja que existen multiples subhistorias extranas que ciertamente pongo nervioso los debates de corazón. Soyas prudent, Jordan. Whatever the hell that meant, but two things caught my eye in that. Play as Sonic and Jordan. Being able to play as Sonic in a Mario game is an extremely rare opportunity, so much that one should just not pass it up. Then, Jordan? My name? That stopped me from clicking the download link. Why would there be a massive, almost unreadable gibberish there? Just so happens that my name in it, too. I thought about Sonic.exe and Mario, but shoved those thoughts away and downloaded it anyway, and I know, terrible move. Most people die in these famous stories, but passing up, playing a hardcore parkour as Sonic the motherfucking Hedgehog in a Mario game? Now let's not be rash here. When I finished downloading, I put it in the WinRAR archive that had all my other ROMs in my ZSNES, double-clicked the exe file, let it load up, and booted up the new SMC file. The intro was the same. Nothing weird about it, up until the file selection. There were 4 files instead of 1, and each of them was already taken by someone. The first had the same name as the guy who posted the download file and owned the site, although everything is possible in a ROM hack, so not too surprising in case you forgot already. There was one called Sonic, another Luigi, and finally one named Mario. These titles barely fazed me, as there was supposed to be some action stuff in these Mario games, and I'd believe it if some modder made a ROM hack and he wanted to be a part of it, so he made his own custom file. I tried playing as IES, my nickname for the uploader, but the game would simply show an unable to load text box and kick me back to the title screen. I tried this again for Sonic, then Luigi, but no luck, as the same thing happened. I went into Mario, slightly expecting the same treatment, but instead I was led to the exact same starting screen as any normal ROM file of Super Mario World. I played through, and the only difference that I noticed was that the point of advice block at Yoshi's house had the text, "Play to Bowser." I assumed that this meant to play up until the Bowser boss fight, so I continued to the Yellow Switch Palace, then over to beat Iggy Koopa, but when I got to the big red double doors and hit the up key, there was Bowser. Plain as day. There was the godfather of all video game bosses, just standing there.
Platform didn't move. There's this Mario and Bowser staring at each other. Then some text boxes popped up. I'll list them as dialogue would proceed. Mario. You don't belong here. Bowser.
You don't deserve to live.
At that comment, Mario seemed to get angry. Mario. You have no right to talk like this. Bowser.
You cannot retaliate.
Mario. You can. I can kill you. I can throw you, jump on you, stomp on you, and burn you. No matter what, you cannot do anything about this. I am the hero. You are the scum. I will kill you again, and I will enjoy it. Bowser simply crossed his arms at that. Bowser.
That's just it, isn't it? When have I ever killed anything? Sure, I kidnapped your princess, but she was willing, and so forth came my children. You kill constantly with no remorse or empathy toward everything you slay.
Mario's face turned red, and he started to kind of hop in place now. Mario. I'll kill you and your children. Bowser.
I know you will.
Bowser unfolded his arms and stayed where he was. Mario had long since reached his peak and lunged at Bowser, jumping on him over and over. The first jump brought him to cover his head with a hulkish arm, eyes closed tightly. The second brought him to support his body with one hand as he kind of slumped backwards and kept one arm up, blocking his face from Mario. The third one made Bowser go on his back all the way, fold up his knees and arms, trying to clutch at what defense he had. Mario's reaction went back to game default, although a small line of 4 small black pixels in the form of a grin betrayed how he felt about this. Oh, he was loving every second of it. He wasn't even focusing on anything, and I wasn't even focusing on the small text box that appeared as Mario mocked him as he was beating the life out of the Koopa Master. Bowser's face was a shady red now. I couldn't even recognize the sprite. So compressed into the platform, arms and knees busted into his torso, and his face again shady red with only one small white pixel to represent where his eye would be. Mario stopped and just stood there observing his work on the opposite side of the platform, still grinning. Then with a classic "Yahoo!" as would be heard in Super Mario 64, he jumped high in the air and landed with a dull squish thud on the remnants of the king. I was then treated with another text box coming from the game that read, "You have killed Bowser, good job." And with that, I was kicked to the file selection. I just sat there, my mouth literally hanging open. That was by far the most fucked up and demented thing I ever witnessed in a game, especially a fucking Mario game. I took in what had just happened. Mario killed King Koopa. King Koopa accepted his fate and even had the audacity to claim that Peach was the mother of all the Koopa bosses throughout the game and that no matter what, Mario would be a killer and they'd always stay that way. I decided I'd maybe pick up on this later, saved under State 23, and shut the damn thing off. The next day I decided to try and play the Mario file again, and it worked. Although when I tried to go to Iggy's castle, a text box popped up saying, "Defeated." All the other levels played normally, although the Koopa boss fights always ended with some kind of small laugh or cry, and the Koopa sprites looked like they were crying slightly. After beating the game up until the final Bowser fight, the game said defeated when I tried to enter the stone head in front of the sunken ghost ship, and I was kicked back to level select. I went again periodically going through the files, anxious, moderately unnerved, curious, slightly enthusiastic about the prospect of playing as Sonic, although again only one file played, Mario's notwithstanding. It was Luigi's file. The game opened up with the familiar text box and settings that Mario's would be in, only that, not surprisingly, the text was different. It stated, "Mario has gone. King Koopa is dead, and the world is in chaos." Kill the princess? Kill the princess? Why would I do that? Did she do something evil, or is this some new storyline altogether? I partially wanted to stop playing, but this was starting to get really intriguing. I know the curiosity kills the player with a hyper-realistic bloody hand from a game cartridge bought off of eBay that the player shrugged off as normal. This game was like L.A. Noire. The essence that you really have to respect why the game was made, and you really just have to play through the storyline for it to really make sense and even be entertaining. I doubt this game would be played for the entertainment factor, but I went along anyway like a cliched idiot. I progressed as Luigi to Yoshi's house. Scratch that. Yoshi's grave, apparently. The green and blue-clad sprite took control of itself and slowly walked over to a tombstone sticking out of the ground. Birds were gone, tree was bare, the house was a pile of rubble now. He walked over, bent down, and stayed like that for several seconds. When he got back up, there was a fire flower in the soft earth in front of the tombstone. He then walked away slowly, blew pixels down his face for a moment. Then I was at the level select screen again. Oh, I tried going in again, but a text box popped up yet again. This time reading, "It would be too painful." It said that each and every time I tried to enter. Nothing changing, just the same text box popping up again and again. Yeah, went through Yoshi's Island 1, only to find that the only remnants of the level feature no enemies at all, only shells at some points. The blocks were already hit, some were smashed out, and the halfway marker tape was gone as if I'd already gone through it. Even though I know that I hadn't, because this was my first time playing as Luigi, and playing in Luigi's file. Everything was gone, except for some rare coins here and there, but other than that, everything was desolate. Even the final checkpoint that marks the end of the level? Nothing. Had nothing. No rising, falling strip of tape, or whatever you might call it. When I went through it, the same end-level theme displayed. No star points that one would receive by passing through the tape at certain heights. Just a display of taking the time away and putting it into the score. He walked to the right. The black screen soon engulfed him, and I could proceed again. All other levels I played, Yellow Switch Palace, the rest of Yoshi's Island, beginning part of Iggy's Castle, all desolate. The point of advice box stayed the same, however, and read the same text. The entire Iggy's Castle level was exactly the same as the others. No enemies, rare coins, some shells, already hit blocks. This, of course, meant that I was still Mini Luigi, and so I had a greater chance of dying. That is, if there were more threats than rare fireballs, falling wood hammer thingies, falling out of the world. That was until I came to Iggy. He was as big as Bowser would be and looked exactly the same, except light blue instead of Bowser's lime shell color. Iggy just sort of teleported. One moment he was there, the next Luigi was falling to the ground in the classic death sequence with Iggy standing where Luigi used to be. Whether Iggy killed him by touch or by fire or whatever, I don't know. It all happened too fast. I was back at the level select and I was about to go into Iggy's Castle again when the screen flashed black for what I feel was about 5 seconds. Then a disturbing cutscene played. Luigi was running away from the castle on an almost completely flat course. Once again, Iggy just came out of nowhere and grabbed Luigi by the neck. His body, being on super, was completely covered by Iggy's massive hand. His face was turning red, starting to turn blue. Iggy threw him to the right off the screen. Luigi skidded across the ground, leaving red streaks when he hit. He didn't move, but he didn't die either. The hulking Koopa Prince walked to Luigi, taking his time, enjoying what he was doing, when out of nowhere Mario jumped out of the right side of the screen and jumped on Iggy. Mario kept jumping on him, and I found myself looking at almost the same scene I witnessed with Bowser. Iggy covering himself, practically praying for life, while Mario kept jumping on him over and over again. No mercy at all. And the same small grin spread across his face. And when he stopped, Iggy looked exactly like Bowser had, pummeled into the ground, a maroon face with one white pixel, and his limbs beaten into his body. He had died the exact same way as Bowser had. Luigi was standing now, although he had trouble doing so. He was bleeding out of every orifice on his face, and he had trouble standing. Took a few shaky steps forward, and then fell forward to his hands and knees. It looked like he spat, got on his feet, wiped his mouth, and fell face down into the ground. Mario was looking at Luigi with a strange expression. Fear, pity, contempt, sadness, whatever it was, it had something to do with anguish. Maybe he didn't like seeing his little brother beaten up to such a terrible degree. I stopped thinking that when he went forward and put his foot on his brother's back, then jumped off of him, landed with a disgusting thud and squish. Luigi didn't move. Mario just stood on top of the corpse with an expression close to remorse. He jumped away, walked out of screen, and I was kicked back to the file selection again. Words cannot describe how disgusted I felt at that moment. Mario had killed both Bowser and his little brother. Why? Well, why did he kill Luigi? Bowser? That was understandable, but why did I have to kill the princess? None of this made sense. I just closed the program, not even bothering to save, shut off my PC. I flopped on my bed and didn't care to turn the lights off and slept a dark, black, dreamless sleep. The next day I deleted the ROM. I even deleted the emulator. I deleted everything with keyword Mario or SMC file. I couldn't even look at Mario without remembering the sick play that I'd witnessed only yesterday. I went to Subway to meet up with some of my friends so I could tell them what had happened, but it was closed. Why was it closed? It was a Wednesday, so it should have been open at the time and date. No holiday was today. I just went home and watched some YouTube when, out of nowhere, a new tab popped up. It led to an online emulator with a Super Mario World ROM hack playing. Oh no, I shut the PC off. I don't care if it popped up for some explainable reason. The fact it happened unnerved me. The next day I did a system restore. I downloaded Firefox instead of Chrome, reasoning that Chrome's the reason all that freaky shit happened, and got Steam and started playing some TF2. In the middle of a match, the Steam browser opened, again unexpectedly, and again to an online emulator. I went to turn it off, but something stopped me. A pixelated sprite was looking directly at me. It looked almost exactly like my Mii would on my Nintendo Wii. Before I made a Mii of George Jetson. The game loaded by itself, and I was looking at Sonic the Hedgehog. He was looking forward, completely oblivious to the horrors that had passed on the others before him. I pushed the right arrow key on the keyboard, and of course he moved right. The sound of my scalp dying in the background was soon forgotten as I was playing through the sickening ROM once again. Played exactly like any other Sonic the Hedgehog game, only it had the same item holder, score, time, life counter as Super Mario World. I went forward to find that this was indeed the first level to Green Hill Zone in the classic Sonic game. When I jumped through the big gold ring at the end of the level, I was taken to another super flat level with nothing in it but walls on either side. It's fairly small, which made me think of it as an arena, and my theory was confirmed when, out of all people, Mario came from the right side of the screen, the fury almost radiating from his pixelated and usually calm demeanor. Sonic looked pissed too, and Mario started talking. There's another dialogue sequence, so I'll just write it off as it would have been said from the respective sprite. Mario: "You've no right to be here." Sonic: "You've no right to kill." Mario: "I did what was best." Sonic: "For you." Mario: "Mind your ignorance, pest." Sonic: "You left nothing for your brother." Mario: "He would not have lasted long in the secular world." Sonic: "He would have lasted longer had you not ended his life." Mario: "There can be only one." Sonic: "Precisely." Mario: "I was the first. You have no right to take away my spotlight." Sonic: "You were the first, but you were far from the best." That moment lasted for an eternity as everything registered. That dialogue made everything come into place. Mario left nothing for Luigi in the levels. No coins, no power-ups, nothing, because he predicted that it would be wasted on a runt like Luigi. Then he killed him because he was afraid that Luigi might get a foothold in the gaming empire and that one day the people would eventually forget about him and move on to Luigi. And he was furious about Sonic. Mario came first, then Sonic walks along not too long after, completely steals his thunder. Mario wanted to dominate. He wanted to control everything, so he eliminated those who stood in his way. The screen faded to black, and when it came back, Sonic was dismembered, decapitated, gored, entrails littered the ground and blood stained his limbs and torso. His head lacked eyes, gray matter hung from his eye sockets, and blood trickled to the ground from his open mouth. Mario had a black eye, a shattered nose, limbs obviously broken beyond being able to recover and regain use. Everything about him was beaten beyond recognition except his clothes, tattered, stained with blood and bits of organs. I had the blessing of not having to witness this horrifying brawl. After seeing this, the screen faded to black and there was only one file left. The username file, which I call IES. I started it, almost unconscious of my own actions. All I was really aware of was that once I completed this file, I'd never have to see this again. I was taken to a small dungeon, and the first thing I noticed was that Mario was in a cell. Like, in a dungeon-type environment. He was dead. Nothing too graphic about it. He just didn't have eyes. Blank, completely white. Nothing else. The screen slowly faded to an image of a man with horse legs and horns lying crippled within what appeared to be an altar of sorts. He, too, had white eyes, and his sprite looked like someone from Chrono Trigger. I was immediately kicked to the title screen. No demo was playing. It was a black background. I pushed the space bar, my start button, and I came to the file select again. There was only one file to choose from, and it was labeled Jordan in bold lettering. I stupidly played it, stunned from everything that just happened. I saw my Mii sprite again, crippled, lying in a pool of blood. Everything except that sprite was pure white. The background, the tiles, the GUI, everything blank. Just an image. I could only see a torn-up blue shirt and the back of the head, as if it was curled up and facing the other direction, so that I couldn't see the worst of the damage. I lost it when that happened. I literally threw the monitor on the ground and kicked in the tower. I grabbed my jacket and shoes and ran like hell. I didn't care what happened. I just lost my mind and went to the nearest subway. I waited for the next train to arrive. Victim was found dead on a subway railway. Clothing items included jeans, Fruit of the Loom briefs, Nike tennis shoes, a DC sweater, woolen socks, and a light blue t-shirt. Strangest thing about the corpse is that it had no eyes present. We'll be looking into the matter with intense interest.